Hey, it's Brook, the guitar teacher. I've almost recovered from my Saturday night gig, and we had a nice blizzard in Iowa, so we're moving the lessons from the school back to my house today because the school is closed. But as far as me, I like to rock, and a little bit of snow doesn't really stop me when I want to rock. Same with my students, so that's what's going on. But hey, I have an idea for a short little discussion, which I would love to know what you think. The question is, should guitar players learn to sight read or not? Um, I can think of some reasons why you would want to avoid it. I do understand that the songs you're taught in a sight reading book are probably not your favorite songs, and they may be irritating. It does take time to learn to sight read. The uh, the notes on the staff are just abstract representations of notes, while tablature is a direct like diagram telling you which fret and which string. With a If you're reading the standard staff and it says E, it could be. How do you know which one? I usually just start with this one here and move up from there. But yeah, let's say you've got limited practice time and you want to get good fast and you just don't want to grind through that stupid book. And you might try to maybe hide the book from the teacher. All right. Or forget your book at the lesson. Okay, I understand. But to counter that, you could just say you could say a lot of things, but an exception to the case. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, probably George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Jimi Hendrix, and probably a lot of other of the greatest musicians of our time were known to not read the standard staff or care about it very much, and they could compose these great masterpieces. That's acceptable. I don't know if Elvis Presley could read notation. Uh, but if you are of that caliber, I think you could be excused. But most of my students are not of that caliber. Uh, or you might possess a sense of how music is going to play out. If you have really good pitch, let's say you hear like a synthesizer or an orchestra and you go, wow, that's definitely, and you can visualize that's an A, and go play your guitar and it matches, you still probably need to sight read. Let's say you can predict, let's say, okay, A chord, and then you can predict the next chord's probably D, probably going to E, might be an F sharp minor, maybe a G to an E, back to A. Let's say you can predict that pretty close. You still probably need to sight read. I avoided sight reading. I could do all those things. I could recognize pitch. I could figure out the pattern of the chords in a verse and a chorus. I could sense that chorus coming up. I could be ready for a bridge and be ready for a solo and somehow get through the gig or teach the song. Even, that's, I don't know if that's a little bit of a gift or something I just developed, but it's very handy. Even with that, I still really value sight reading so I can be sure of the duration of notes. I can be sure of a vocal melody. I can be sure that I'm working on phrasing rather than running up and down scale. So the melody of a song is really important. The melody is a element of music that sometimes my students don't think about. They might, if I teach them a scale, they might just sort of go up and down the scale in just kind of a nonsensical fashion, sort of like a. just sort of thrashing their way through, up and down the scale. And it just doesn't make any sense. So you might need that sight reading to at least identify maybe chord tones or melodic notes that kind of go someplace versus just sort of spinning your wheels on a scale, or lead guitar lines. So number one thing I would say is note duration or timing. It shows kind of respect for the tradition of learning music. It just makes you a more well-rounded musician. It activates more parts of your brain. I don't know if these are very compelling arguments. My teacher gave me a piece of music that was sight reading that put me way up here. It was page after page, and it kept changing keys and different sharps and flats, and it was, man, it was really, I was very stimulated in my brain, but it was frustrating, and I think I ran through it for a few weeks and I kind of let it go, but I need to get back to that. So I would recommend trying to keep up with your sight reading. If you're lucky enough to have a guitar teacher that cares enough to teach standard sight reading, I would cooperate with your teacher and do so cheerfully. Bring in your book, put it down, and open it up to where you're at and say, I'm ready to go. And just get through that little bit of sight reading at your lesson. Then move on to some more, exciting, big concepts of music. But at least you'll have the foundation of knowing what the staff is, timing, things like repeats, signs, all kinds of notation that you can learn. I feel like I only know I consider myself an intermediate level sight reader, and it really opens up a lot of things. If you open up a book and look at some music, you can go, oh yeah, I know, I can read that. And you can hear it just from looking at it. So that's pretty amazing. Don't forget to try to improvise and play without sight reading. You can memorize things. You can look at chord charts. You can look at tablature. You can watch videos. I want to do it all. I don't want to just do a few little select things. I want to do what my teacher asks of me, and also kind of be there for my students and give them a good, well-rounded experience. So I just got a few more. I buy these. I'll show you my book I use. It's really, I suppose people think I really like the songs in this book. Some of them are pretty awesome, actually. There's some really good stuff. So this is an old company called Progressive Series. I don't think they're in business anymore. And it's Beginning Guitar Book 1. I get them on eBay pretty cheap. Sometimes I can buy a quantity of them. So I just give them to my students. One that we work on is number 26, Asturias. Let me just run through that for you, just for a little bit of entertainment. See if I can read those notes. Alright, so what chord would go with that to end on? So I'll ask that question. Students will say, G? I'm like, maybe. Or E? I don't know. To me, it sounds pretty strongly like A minor. I'll do the last line. So you start to develop maybe that ear one way or another. You might be born with it, you might develop it, but this might reinforce that. If you can't naturally just anticipate the chord, you probably should be reading music. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that easy. A lot of people do not have that ability. So that's one little advantage I seem to have. I can kind of tell what's coming up or pick a chord to fit over a melody that seems correct. All right, I'm jabbering at this point, but thanks a lot for considering sight reading. It's pretty cool. If you're one of my students, just bring your book, be ready, practice a little bit every day. Come on in, we'll have some fun with it. Then we'll move on to some more challenging and exciting topics. Thanks a lot.